Do I ever take on the WoW drama, or are we avoiding these types of topics? What's the drama? I assume it's going to be the GM using the death touch to kill things. There's so much MMORPG drama that when someone says the WoW drama, I'm like, you've got to be more specific. So I don't personally care because it doesn't affect me, but at the same time, I do think it affects the integrity of what people are trying to go for. This links back to when we were talking about systems earlier. Human beings are the most fallible part of any system. Like, take any system. The weakness is going to be a person. That's the weak part. That's the exploitable part. Social manipulation exists because it works. I don't really care about pushing mythic keys. I'm not a retail WoW mythic raider. I know that some people are. And to those people, I would like to respect the integrity of what they're trying to do. Something doesn't need to be for me to want it to be integral to who they are and have a level of integrity to it. And then you've unfortunately got the idea of this person is going to, what is basically cheat in order to, find an advantage, to gain an advantage. And then everyone else is going to say, oh, it's just a game. Yeah, you know what? In the grand scheme of things, it is just a game. In the absolute grand scheme of general humanity, it is just a game. However, it also shows a remarkable lack of respect to the people who are playing that game for people to just immediately take it and effectively cheat on it. That sucks. Like, if you want to work for Blizzard, that's fine. I don't care whether you do or don't. But you're going to have players of lots of your games, and those players kind of want you to be impartial. If you're put into a position of power and a position of respect, try not to abuse that position of power to benefit you and your friends. Now, I know that we live in one hell of a society, and that's always going to happen. And it sucks. I think ultimately what bothers me is just the lack of respect. What happened? There was a mythic raider on Warcraft Retail. I believe they were a streamer, and they were raiding in a group, and one of the members of the group was a Blizzard. They weren't a Blizzard game master as much as they had like a Q&A testing job, but they had access to moderator tools within the game. It was Mythic Plus, and they were struggling on a boss, and so the staff member used the staff-only Death Touch spell to just immediately kill the enemy. So they abused their staff privileges to, get further. And, I mean, that sucks. And question, Zavri says, who cares if it's PvE content? The other people who are doing PvE care, because there's a level of competition to it. And what you don't want to do is feel that the people you are competing against have an unfair advantage. It doesn't affect them. It does if you are seeing it in a competitive level. Also, when you say who cares to a blatant example of abuse of power and cheating, you're minimizing the impact that it has. What I think you mean to say is, while it doesn't necessarily affect you, and while it doesn't necessarily affect them, it does set a precedent that this behavior is accepted. And what we can't do is set that precedent. Once we minimize interactions with, but who cares, we're saying, yeah, I know that you abused your power, and yeah, I know they did something bad, and yeah, I know they shouldn't have done it, but ultimately, who really cares they did this? I'll tell you who cares. The people that want to see the game they play and the hobby they have and the company they pay money to as having a level of integrity. Now, I know that seems quite ironic to talk about Blizzard that way, but I think the people that care are the people that still want to engage with this system and hope and see the system as being somewhat fair. So that would be who cares. Does it affect them on a day-to-day basis? No, but it does mean that they need to come to terms with the fact that engaging with the game they like means involving themselves in an inherently unfair system, when part of the appeal of an MMORPG is everyone exists in this fictional world and your achievements are your own. Real life money doesn't affect it, real life status doesn't affect it, real life advantages doesn't affect it. You can simply start a new fictional life in the fantasy land of Azeroth and achieve based on your own input, your own learning, and your own skill. And as soon as you realize that actually none of that's true, you start to question why you're even playing it. That would be why. Now, you don't need to like it, but I think the people that care are the people that want to see their hobby as having a level of integrity. You still don't get it. Focus on your achievements, then, not others. Okay, Zavri, you don't need to get it, but you do need to respect it and understand it. Okay, Zavri, focus on your achievements and not others. Let's imagine that whatever job you've got, you go for a promotion, and somebody else gets that promotion because they know the boss. You're better than them. Would that annoy you? Would that irritate you? That they got the promotion that you should have got? Or would you turn around and go, well, you know what? Doesn't matter about integrity. In that example, it does affect me. Okay, so something that affects you when it loses integrity matters, and something that doesn't affect you when it loses integrity doesn't matter. So what you're saying is you're not actually bothered about the value of the system of integrity, you're bothered about its effect on you. And this is one of the dangers. If we're going to defend the principle of integrity, we have to defend it when it doesn't just apply to us. If you want to defend a principle, an ideal, or a right, then you still need to defend it when it's benefiting somebody else. Because if you don't, you're not actually defending the principle or the right. You're defending its effect on you. It's about the level playing field. Yeah, the idea. What are my thoughts on cheating in video games? I mean, in a single-player game, I don't particularly care. If it's a single-player game with a high score system and you're, cheating someone else out of that score, yeah, that sucks. Depends what you're doing it for. Like, if I'm playing Tomb Raider 1 and cheat to make lava explode or give myself more health packs, that's fine. That's kind of like my game. If I'm involved in a tournament of how many people can complete Tomb Raider the fastest and I give myself an advantage that way, then that sucks. If I'm giving myself an advantage that other people don't have and using it to defeat those people in competition, that seems unfair. If it's my game and I'm just doing it in a way that only affects me, then yeah, that's fine. As far as people that are designing cheat engines in order to get employed in the gaming industry, that's probably a tad above my pay grade. I'm not as versed in the development of cheat engines as I need to be to have any kind of opinion on it. I think as well that cheating in video games once you've finished them is fun. I think cheating before you finish them is often robbing yourself of a good game design. And I always found it really weird when people would buy a game, cheat to the last level and say they'd finished it. I think cheats should be a way of interacting with and navigating the game once you have experienced the game in the way that the designer wants you to experience it. Like if you want to play through GoldenEye and then play the whole thing again in big head mode, excellent, great. I love unlocking stuff by just actually playing the game. I think my favorite was always Time Splitters 2, favorite first-person shooter. I think Time Splitters 2 is absolutely brilliant. And the fact that you can unlock so many of the cheats by just being good at that game. Neo Tokyo in Time Splitters 2 was brilliant. Such a good level. Yeah, I suppose a way of looking at it is, do you want to watch the director's commentary of a film that you like before you watch the film itself? I would say watch the film itself and then turn around and watch the director's commentary. Experience the meter as it was meant to be experienced, then go back and watch it again. And yeah, I, again, also completely agree that cheat engines can be used for many beneficial things. I'm going to die here. Especially things like actual software hacks to the game that make it playable on modern systems. I would only go and watch a film with director's commentary on after I'd, finished watching the film once or twice. All right, we've taken item damage again, that's fine. Don't mind taking some item damage. It's a much more nuanced topic than just, is this good or bad? Sometimes it's, what does this provide? What benefit does this provide the player? Does it give the player an unfair advantage over other players? And if it does, that feels a bit sucky. Working full-time, having to support a partner life, cheats allow you to experience getting through a game faster while still the same enjoyment. Valheim, for instance. Lose your gear. Can take an hour at least to get back to your gear. That will be all the time that week. No, I agree. But is that what Valheim is? Is the you lose your gear and get it back and it takes a week part of what Valheim wants to be? Now, I'm not saying that you're enjoying it and experiencing it wrong. I'm saying that is the design that the developers want the game to have. And so when you finish or complete the objectives that you give yourself in Valheim, is that level of satisfaction enhanced by knowing that you've overcome that difficult problem? Sometimes grindy design in a game is done because that's the feeling the developer wants the game to have. It's almost like saying, I dislike the fact that when you heal in Dark Souls, all the enemies respawn. Well, that's the design. That's the game. If you were to remove that, you would be changing the experience of what they wanted Dark Souls to be. You'd be going through an adventure that has lost the message of perseverance. And the message of perseverance is an important kind of narrative technique, because in good games, the narrative is built into the design of the game. But I'm not saying that you are wrong for enjoying the game in a different way. But here's another question. When you meet someone who has played and finished a game, there is, on at least some level, a connection or an understanding between you two based on the experience you know that you've both gone through. You know, you meet someone that's finished Dark Souls 1 and you're like, I get it. You know, there's a vibe there straight away. If you meet someone and they say, oh yeah, I finished Dark Souls, but I cheated to make sure that enemies don't respawn, I'm like, well, I think you've robbed yourself of an experience. Again, this is going to sound really pretentious, but I kind of need to kind of preface it to help understand. There is an element within society that is generated by everyone experiencing the same art and having the same message and the same understanding of that art. And what that means is, if you listen to a song, if you watch a film, if you read a book, when you meet someone that has also experienced the same thing, you may be able to bond over the shared message that you both understand. And by being able to bond over that shared message, the art has brought us together. When you, and I do think video games are art, when you change elements of a video game to make them easier than they were originally designed to be, are you changing the experience of the art? And are you changing the connection that you then make with somebody else based on that experience? And even if you are, does it matter? I mean, for example, imagine, has anyone in the chat seen the film Requiem for a Dream? If you have seen the film Requiem for a Dream, I have also seen the film Requiem for a Dream. It is the best film I will never watch again. If someone comes up to me and said, yes, they've seen Requiem for a Dream, but they watched it on double speed with no sound because they didn't have time to watch all the film, part of me's thinking, I don't think you experienced the same art that I experienced, and therefore I think our conversation on this art is going to be somewhat limited. That's maybe where it's coming from. It's the more you change the experience of the art, the more conversations about the art you are potentially limiting yourself from. I mean, I've had musician friends of mine say, hey man, if you're going to watch the new video that I've made, the new song, could you do me a favor and listen to it on good headphones and not watch it on your phone? And I'm like, you know what? Fair enough. Because the way you want to experience is like this. What I'm not going to do is listen to it on a tinny phone from halfway across the kitchen while I'm making, lunch, and then half remember it and then say, yeah, it was good. But at the same time, what do we see as an unnecessary nuisance and what do we see as integral game design? Two people experiencing art differently is the basis of conversation. You're not meant to say, remember that part, you're meant to compare the experiences. Yes, but comparing the experiences does both require you to have the same foundational experience, because then you can compare how you experience them differently. You can't show someone the Mona Lisa and then show someone else the Sistine Chapel and say, hey, can we compare those? Because I'm like, we didn't have the same experience. You can't show someone a whole film and then show someone else the film sped up at double speed on a phone and say, hey, let's compare experiences. You need to at least have the same foundation to build off. People are going to get different things from the same message, but it's important that they are at least presented with the same original stimulus to then be able to talk about. You know what, Glass? You're right, that is another bad example. I have been streaming for 6 hours and I'm thinking off the top of my head here, I'm not going to be on my A game. But there is something to be argued for. Video games do seem to be the only medium that you can completely change the experience of, and still everyone will consider it the same experience. Like if you read an abridged version of any book, people will say, oh, you haven't read the book. And if you listen to an album on double speed, they'll say, you haven't listened to the album. And if you eat a cheap kind of off-the-shelf version of food, they'll say, oh, you haven't had the real food. Okay, cool. But Josh, sometimes people value their time different. So to be honest, I'm okay with them cheating in a single-player game. Yes, Kurt, I am aware that people value their time differently. I am also okay with people cheating in a single-player game. I don't particularly care. The discussion we're having right now is, does the cheating in the single-player game alienate people from a discussion about the game if their experience of the game was cheated from the start? I suppose it's about connection. Video games are effectively a form of art that connects us. And the more we change that, the more we have to kind of prepare the person that we're talking to that the connection may not be as direct. If cheating helps you finish the game, then it gave you the experience itself. There are some people that would say it didn't because you didn't finish the game without the cheats. But there are some people that will say, as long as you engaged with the narrative of the game, even if you mitigated the mechanics, you got there. Dara O'Brien, the comedian, has a section where he talks about gaming being interesting because it is one of the few mediums that will not give you the experience of it if you are not mechanically good at it. Taran says, you love and hate when devs listen to the player base. So players are incredible at identifying problems. They are awful at suggesting solutions. Players are really good at telling you what they don't want. What they're not good at is replacing it with good gameplay. Didn't one of the Path of Exile devs basically say if they listened to every single player, all they would do is autoplay the game in the background and then email them a list of drops at the end of the day? You know how we were talking about earlier stuff, saying sometimes you just got to engage with the stuff that sucks, and you don't like it, but you've got to engage with it because that's the experience you have. Something with video games people do is they effectively want to remove all of the stuff that sucks from a game without realizing that sometimes the stuff that sucks is there to provide friction. Sometimes it's by design and is actually necessary because as soon as you remove the friction that the stuff that sucks creates, you are left with only an extremely pleasant experience, which is often not as memorable. I think it's okay to sit with a part of the game that's not very well designed. Sometimes when a bit of game design sucks, I have to ask myself, what is it providing to the overall play experience? Is it actually necessary? You think this discussion is somewhat untenable because so many people get defensive on this topic so fast? Oh, individual, completely agree. Hasn't stopped us so far though. We've spent months talking about stuff people get defensive about. People feel the need to want to defend what they do or don't believe, and on a degree I can respect that. But in the same way, sometimes we need to engage with stuff that we do or don't like and accept that it has flaws or can be improved. What about add-ons that fix the game design? I'm using Questy, and I'm using Leatrix maps right now. Have I had exactly the same experience that someone playing World of Warcraft Classic would have had back in the day, back in 2004? No. No, I haven't. But at the same time, I actually don't think Questy and Leatrix maps is the biggest change here. Someone once messaged me saying, Josh, you do realize that by using a quest tracker and a map point shower, you are not having the same true WoW experience. And I thought, you know what? That's true. I also think that streaming the experience to 2,000 people and having everyone willing to help me and give me gold and carry me through dungeons is also affecting the experience. But it's weird that people focus on what they can see in-game and they forget to look at the context around the way that I'm playing this. People really do that. Oh God, people are unhinged, man. I have had emails from people angry, genuinely angry, that I am robbing myself of the classic WoW true experience, the pure experience. Emails. Oh yeah. Emails, Instagram messages, Twitter messages. Some people have just walked up to me and told me in real life, which is always a bit weird. But I think what we have to understand is that people that make a video game their personality are not well-adjusted people. Like, you can like WoW. You can love WoW. You don't need to be WoW incarnate. But of course, if I'm streaming it for a long time, I'm going to get people who are like super into it, which is fine. Walks up to streamer IRL, how dare you? No, it happened at one of the... There used to be a festival in Birmingham called Insomnia. And it was a really cool gaming festival. Miss Insomnia, rip Insomnia. And I was at one of the Insomnia shows, and I was performing on stage. I was doing the Session Zero Dungeons and Dragons live play series, which was really fun. I enjoyed doing it. And I was meeting some of the guys, and I was just kind of hanging out. It was a good show. I enjoyed it. And after the show, the next morning, I was having breakfast there's a Wetherspoons connected to the NEC. Why did Insomnia disappear? Allegedly, I've got to be very careful what I say now. Entirely allegedly, the organizational team and individuals within were accused of mismanaging funds and leaving several contractors unpaid. You have to listen to the words that I'm not saying. But yeah, financial nonsense. Anyway, it was the Insomnia Festival. Next day, I was sitting in the Wetherspoons in the NEC, just getting a breakfast. I was sat there, big English breakfast, and some guy that I don't know just walked up, pulled up a chair, sat down at the same table as me, and said, "You said bad things about my favourite MMORPG." And I think he was trying to be funny, but I didn't know this guy. And all I could kind of say was, I'm having breakfast. And I think there was a moment of realization when he kind of realized that what he just did was not as cool or as suave or as socially accepted as he thought it would be. And then he just kind of stood up and walked off. I thought maybe we'd like have a conversation, we'd have a little chat, we'd have a little joke, but this dude sounded aggressive. I would say that he wasn't necessarily threatening, and I wasn't scared of him, but I don't need to be scared of a person, I can be scared of the weapon they have. Now, I didn't know this dude. So someone you don't know sits down next to you and accuses you of annoying them. Straight away, I'm like, this could go very bad very quickly. Because I was a martial arts instructor for about 5 years, and I've worked with and I've taught some very capable people. And people often say to me, "Oh, you're a martial arts instructor. You must not be afraid of anyone." I'm like, no, I'm the exact opposite. Okay, because I know the kind of person that is going to start a fight with you is insane. Okay, the kind of person that is willing to come up to you and get involved in physical violence is often the kind of person that is carrying something very dangerous with them. Often people that teach martial arts or self-defense are more scared because they know exactly how easy it is to do a lot of damage to someone. I guarantee if someone walks up to you and attacks you, the best self-defense technique you can learn is sprinting. The best self-defense is good cardio. I've had instructors before say to me, "No, you must turn and fight. Run. Really fast." Do I carry pepper spray? Not allowed, it's the UK. I've not got a license for that. Ready, or get a gun. Again, UK. Although I do have a blunderbuss around here somewhere. I think it's behind the green screen. Usain Bolt is the true black belt. Just sprints away. It would work. It would work remarkably well. What are the odds someone would attack you over an MMO opinion? Remarkably low, but not zero. I mean, I'm not particularly bothered because somebody who is going to be unhinged enough to have an extremely violent opinion over an MMORPG is probably not going to be the fittest person in the world. That's just me using stereotypes, to be honest. Although I've had friends that have worked for various MMORPG companies who have been found in real life by very unhinged players and effectively accosted and then interrogated about why certain decisions were or weren't made in the game. Some people are just weird, man. Hang on, while this gnome stabs me, let me just heal myself. Which one do I prefer, Peep Show or It's Always Sunny? Love them both, but I'm a massive Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan. No, I think Always Sunny is a great show. I mean, Peep Show was funny. Why did you nerf this as if you're personally responsible? Yeah, you joke, but yeah, that's what they do. That is straight up what very unhinged people do. Now, thankfully, again, that is a minority of people. A huge minority. Most people can just play a game and enjoy it and have fun with it. Like, it's a bit of, light-hearted teasing. Oh, alliance or horde kind of thing. And you meet someone from the other side and you're like, oh, how dare you kind of thing. It's like a silly little thing. You're bonding over the fact you play the same game. But have you ever met someone in real life who is, like, genuinely annoyed that you're on the other side? Like, you play the same game, but they're really annoyed you don't play it the way they do. It's weird, man. It's misplaced tribalism. That's a great way of putting it. And you know it's misplaced, because were it correctly placed, it would have been placed in the Alliance. The console wars all over again. PS2, Xbox, PS2, Xbox. Just like video games, man. Just like play lots of video games. Just like games, play games, be normal. Difficult, I know, but just try.